Hello everyone. I'm Jim Al-Khalili. I'm a professor of physics at the University of Surrey.
I'm Carlo Rovelli. I am a theoretical physicist. Both Jim and I devoted energy in popularization and writing for the large public. We are very different, I would say, in the way we do popular science. You are more reliable than me. You take a more passionate but equilibrated a distance point of view. You say, this is what is going on in a very low-key way. But I am engaged in a battle of ideas and I want to defend my ideas.
Because I'm not immediately involved, my research area isn't immediately in, say, looking for a theory of quantum gravity, as you are, and you're one of the pioneers of one of those ideas, loop quantum gravity. I can afford to, as you say, to take a step back and try and be neutral on the matter.
You need both, right?
Absolutely. We want to kick off with an issue with physics, which I think many people, even outside of the field, will be probably aware of, which is that here's our most successful, most powerful theory, almost in all of science, quantum mechanics, a theory of the subatomic world. So powerful, so successful. Without it, we wouldn't understand so much of the modern world. We wouldn't be having this discussion, certainly on a computer, because we wouldn't have understood and developed modern electronics. So quantum mechanics works, and it's brilliant, and it describes our universe on the tiniest scale. And yet, somehow, we've managed to get away with not having a single agreed upon narrative, interpretation, story of what the mathematics means. I have my views on what I like and what I don't like. You've been an advocate relatively strongly, but mainly because I guess you were one of the people who developed it over 2 decades ago, something called relational quantum mechanics. Now, people will have heard of the Copenhagen interpretation that was developed by the founding fathers, Niels Bohr, Heisenberg, Pauli. But maybe we can kick off by you explaining what the relational quantum mechanics actually means and how it differs.
Let me start by saying that I am a defender of relational quantum mechanics. It's never been contradicted so far, and it probably has limits somewhere, but we don't know them. We don't know where it goes wrong. And still, it is mysterious. It is completely mysterious. I mean, you read it, you use it, but then if you ask what is it saying about the world, we get confused. And there is a remarkable difference of opinions in the community. Each one of them has a very high philosophical cost. They ask us to realize that something we thought before was wrong, that there is more in the world than what we just see. Maybe there are hidden variables that we can never measure. Maybe there are other words. Maybe there is a... So the question now is which perspective is more useful? And the debate is open, and I think it has been changing. The relational quantum mechanics you mentioned, on which I've been involved, is probably the young kid on the block. It's much younger than the others. It's very close to Copenhagen and to the standard textbook. In fact, I would say is the closest tentative solution of the problem to the textbook one. The textbook, what you write in textbook is that you study a quantum system, but you're outside it, you're in a classical world, a non-quantum mechanical world. So you describe how the system affects you, the classical world, how it affects your apparatus, what you measure, what you see. And it works very well. And the mystery is, but what about the classical world? I mean, isn't quantum mechanics as well? Aren't we made of atoms? And aren't we quantum as well? So how can we have a theory that explains how quantum stuff affect us, classical stuff, if we are ourselves quantum? Now, the relational idea is very simple, and is the following. The theory is not telling us how a quantum system affects a classical world. The theory is telling us how a system affects any other system. Any two physical systems that don't need to be human, don't need to be memory, to be classical, anything. If you want to know how one effect affects the other, you use quantum mechanics. And this is intense because instead of thinking of system with properties, you only are asked to think of systems with relations with others. So in a sense, systems by themselves don't exist. They only exist in the way they affect the other. That's the idea. And it has a technical side. I'm defending it, and the main argument in favor of it I have is that the alternative are even worse.
It sounds very much like relativity theory in the sense that, what you see depends on your frame of reference, depends on you as the observer. And so if I see two events happening, I may not see them in the same way that you would. Relational quantum mechanics also said that if you and I are observing a quantum system, we don't necessarily have to report the same thing.
Exactly. That's the main thing.
So that is, in that sense, is quite similar, as you say, to the Copenhagen interpretation, in that, as Niels Bohr would have said, it's not about how the world is, it's about what we can say about the world.
It's very similar to Copenhagen. It's very close to Bohr. Bohr says, I cannot look at just a quantum system itself. It's a quantum system and apparatus. And I'm just trying to say, okay, 100 years have passed. That's true, but it's not just an apparatus. It's a quantum system and any other system is interacting with.
Yeah.
If I want to study this other system, I have to refer it to another system again. Jim, let me turn the question to you. What is your attitude? Because I think everybody has an attitude with respect to quantum mechanics. It's a little bit like, what's your religion?
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting, isn't it? And we try, as particularly as physicists, to say, no, we are objective. We don't, follow. Physics isn't an ideology. It's about scientific method and so on. But you're right. People do have. So as I'm sure you did, as probably all physicists of our generation, we were trained, we learnt quantum mechanics following the standard, the Copenhagen view, the textbook view. While I haven't fixed on one particular interpretation to say that, yes, it's definitely many worlds, there are many universes, this is, I subscribe to this, dogmatically. The one view I do feel strongly about is that it cannot simply be a matter of philosophical taste or choice how we think nature is. We have an embarrassment of these different interpretations, the way we explain what the maths tells us about the world, whether it's Copenhagen, whether it's relational, whether it's quantum Bayesianism, whether it's many worlds, whether it's de Broglie-Bohm. There's all these wonderfully named exotica, all strange in their own way, all easy to argue against from another perspective, because every one of them has some strangeness in it. My view is that one of them has to be right and the others are wrong, because I think nature behaves in a certain way independently of our debates and arguments and discussions. Either there are parallel universes or there aren't. Either there are hidden variables or there aren't. Either the universe is deterministic or it's indeterministic. I tend to be, if I'm asked to sort of pick one that I prefer, I tend to prefer sort of the more realist interpretations. There's an objective reality, which I guess probably goes against relational quantum mechanics, because that would say that an atom doing what it's doing something. Regardless of you and I having different views on it, it's doing something. And quantum mechanics should tell us what it's doing. It's been behaving quantum mechanically before humans arrived, life emerged 4 billion years ago on Earth, and so it can't simply be a world that's somehow conjured into or crystallized into reality by our observations. So it may be that sits underneath. Maybe relational quantum mechanics is all quantum mechanics can tell us. It can, how we perceive the world, but maybe underneath that there is some objective reality that we may or may not ever one day reach. But I sort of feel that it has to exist there independently of our observations.
But more in the direction of de Broglie-Bohm, so there are these wave functions and there are also particles, or in direction of many worlds?
Well, I think so. I think more in the direction of de Broglie-Bohm, because metaphysically, I find it hard to buy into a near infinite number of realities coexisting just because an electron on the other side of the universe decided could go left and right and the universe split in two. Of course, I know de Broglie-Bohm has its own problems, but it has a certain appeal to me aesthetically. But I know that's not the way we're supposed to do physics.
I think that the debate is not blocked. I think it is evolving. Yeah. Some perspective have been abandoned. Some way of thinking are not fashionable because they were not working. One thing that might happen is that some perspective works better for going ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I mean, we want to do quantum gravity, right? And maybe one works better for doing quantum gravity, and then we somehow find it fruitful. So
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below, or visit iai.tv for more debates and talks from the world's leading thinkers on today's biggest ideas.